Our approach is more about really just adding as many young talented guys to the roster that we can. We certainly do have call it certain positional leanings. I won't necessarily disclose those specifics in this setting, but we are a little bit more long-term focused as opposed to short-term focused when we make selections when we're on the clock.
How different does it feel, and how different do you think it'll be, Thursday night not having that pick?
Honestly, I wouldn't say that it feels much different because there's still a lot of decisions that you have to make over the course of the weekend. So maybe Thursday night in terms of the schedule will potentially handle a little bit differently, but in terms of the intensity and focus for the weekend, that really hasn't changed.
Do you feel handcuffed to move up in the second round after the Watson trade?
No, not necessarily, Tony.
Would you be to move back into the first round, or how likely is that to happen?
Would never rule out anything, Mary Kay. I would say just candidly, I think it's unlikely, but I don't want to say anything in absolutes because you just never know how situations arise. Quite honestly, I wouldn't have expected us to move up last year, so you have to be flexible for the situation. Honestly, it just really depends on how the board falls. Whether it's, hey, is there a player available who fits a specific profile in terms of their talent, in terms of what the projected impact may be if they were added to the roster over the life of their rookie deal, and then ultimately positional scarcity and cost, right? Cost of the actual transaction to really move up or move down the board. So all those really come into play. I wish I could give you a kind of a standardized way of thinking through it, Dan. But the reality is each situation is a little bit more unique. Candidly, we spend, yesterday was our last formal strategy session. We really spend the bulk of this week talking through those type of different scenarios. Because at this point, all the evaluation work is completed. So it's really talking through some of the different trade-offs, selections you can make at the different spots, or some of the different ways you might pivot if the board falls a certain way. So we try and get as much of that done ahead of time. I would tell you there are still things that you don't predict. JOK last year would be one of them, but you try and have a framework in place where you can work through a situation that you may not have specifically prepared for in the week prior.
Hey, Andrew, two related